So for this session and presentation around building more flexible and integrated AML and KYC processes, very specific, but you'll see it's going to be very insightful as well. With Jenny. Hi, Jenny. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, thank you. I love the polo, by the way. Nice
Yeah, thank
nice
you.
colors on you. So
Yeah.
Jenny is one of our senior solutions engineer here at Creatio, and she brings a lot of background and expertise around low code and no code technology, not only at Creatio but also working in at Deloitte, a large consulting firm. So Jenny is really gonna focus today around benefits for financial services, especially around AML KYC processes. So Jenny, I'll stay logged in. I'll be a silent but good listener and take any questions at the end if we have time. Okay?
Okay, that sounds great. I am going to share my screen so that we can take a look at this application and how you might be able to use Creatio to streamline your KYC and AML processes. So for this example, we are going to walk through an application that needs to pass between various teams in order to complete all of the steps that are part of that customer identification program, including AML and KYC. So this is obviously in the case of onboarding a new customer, and then we can also talk about how you can continue to maintain the monitoring that you need to do. In this example, we have an application for a mortgage loan product, and we have a workflow across the top that shows us that this team has already been working through the new application. They've received it and they've done some data capture. That includes capturing all of the information about the product that they are applying for, also identifying who the participants are, completing the application forms, and then we've also identified all of the documentation that is required for this particular application. And then the team has already done the work to upload the necessary documents for each of these required elements for validating the identification. And so now that we have all the information in one place, all of it here in this record for this particular application for our borrower, Alex Wilson, everything is in one place. And so we can use the workflow across the top to start sending this to the right teams to complete our due diligence. So I'll move this into the due diligence workflow, and then you'll see that a couple of checks or new tasks have come up in this steps. So my first one is to send this for the KYC check. So now that I have all those documents about my customer, I can then send this to maybe a third party in order to complete that validation and of all of those documents. And that could be an automated process where I then use an API and I am able to send all of those documents and the application all in one package and then get the information back. So I can say, okay, I'm going to complete that and kick off that API. And then I will go ahead and be able to see the information about the performed checks come back to me. So I can see that information maybe has been sent already and that they've checked like the FATCA database. And then I have information here about other checks that we have completed, and that's come back through that API. I can also then have a task in order to notify the customer that the application status has changed, because part of that onboarding process is making sure that you're very transparent with the customer. So one of my tasks can be that I have automated the information for an email in order to send this to my customer to be able to say that the application has moved into the next stage. And then the last piece, the next piece that you'll see is that we need to validate the KYC results. So we got all of the information back from our third party, and now we want our KYC team to validate those results as part of our onboarding process. And so actually, Creatio has automatically taken this whole application and all of the information to this point, and then created a notification for the KYC team. So if I bring over our KYC person, you'll be able to see that this application has actually gone into her dashboard. I'll drag this over. Because we need to log in as this new person because we've actually changed the access rights so that nobody else can enter this information, only the KYC team. So you'll see that it comes into the KYC team's queue. I'm logged in as a member of that team. And now if I open this up, I'll have all that same information about the application and the participants on that application, all here in the same record, in the same format, but now I have updated information and I'm able to complete my validation as the KYC team. So it's a very seamless handoff to the next team. So once this just loads, it's a little bit slow. I guess my computer is doing a lot trying to live stream with you. Now I'm able to complete the KYC validation. So as a member of the team, I have the access rights to be able to complete this task, and I can go ahead and click complete. And you'll see that this pre-configured little pop-up page gives me some of the checklists that I need to complete this validation. This is a pretty streamlined example for the sake of the demo, but you'll be able to configure this page with whatever the checks are that you would want this team to validate. So I can say that everything looks good, and then I can go ahead and confirm this. And when I complete this task, we'll actually now pass to the credit team in order for them to complete their validation. And if I just update this decision page here, you'll see that the validation from the KYC team now shows as confirmed, and it shows that who completed it and the date and that I was a member of that team. And now you'll be able to see that we're waiting on the next one. This is important because the status can clearly be communicated to the applicant, but it also means that the relationship manager has visibility into the status of all of these different checks that need to happen for KYC and AML, but without the edit rights, so that they can't make any changes, but at least can know what the status is. And then, of course, if we log in as that credit team, we will be able to see the applications show up now in their dashboard. So all of this, again, those seamless handoffs in between the team members, access to that single source of information so that everyone knows the status, and we're not passing those documents back and forth. So again, I'll be able to access that application and then be able to complete my task using another pre-configured page or a little pop-up window. And what's nice about those pop-up windows is that they can also include reference materials. So in this example, we actually have our checklist again, and we also have an attachment that might tell me what some additional rules are or some other things that I need to keep in mind as part of maintaining our customer identification program, so that I'm making sure that I follow all the standards. And then, of course, I will complete this and it will pass on to the legal team, who will then do the same steps again. So, of course, it's easy and seamless for the user to pass this information between the various teams. The real secret with Creatio is how we're able to do that and set up that workflow and those access rights without having to code. So I will actually bring over one last window where I'm able to show you some of those admin tools for how we configure that workflow. You should recognize this workflow that was across the top. We were completing all of the tasks that are in this due diligence stage. So this is all done without code. If you had a new stage that you wanted to add, you'd simply be able to add that stage. You're also able to rearrange any of these tasks or add new ones. So maybe if we needed KYC, the API call to happen earlier, we could just drag that and put it into a new stage. This is a validation element that defines that pop-up window that we use in order to validate the KYC process. And then you're able to say, over here, what group of employees should do that validation, or maybe it's a single named person. And if it's a group, then which team, which is the KYC team. You're also able to complete that validation through a business process, which is what we did for the credit risk step. So to the user, they looked very seamless, and they look very similar, those different pre-configured pages where we confirmed or we denied or sent back for more information. But using a business process allows you to have a little more complexity about whether or not if something is confirmed or if something is denied, what should happen next. So I'll actually show you that risk process that we used for this. And this is through the Business Process Manager in Creatio. So we have that workflow capability. We're also able to set different conditional routing based on the results of our validation steps for KYC and AML. In this case, when that business process is kicked off, it will then change the access rights. So that's how we were able to say that only the credit team is able to edit the record, and all other roles and users were not able to edit or delete. We then defined that validation element, and it's the same as what we did in that workflow where we said which employees could complete this. And then you're able to set up the conditional routing. If it is rejected, we want to actually edit the status of that application to canceled. And if it was confirmed, then we're going to pass it on to legal. And this is all done with drag and drop. So if maybe we wanted to add something where maybe we needed to even call another web service in order to update some information once we kick this off to legal, we can drop that in and then define, what this web service will be and any conditional elements that might come out of that web service. The last item I want to point out is the KYC process as part of calling a web service. So one of the steps we had was to go fetch external information about the applicant. We sent all of the documents and we wanted to get the information back about the government databases as well as the validation of those documents that we sent for identity. So in order to do that, we had a trigger here that said, when we kick that off in the approval process of a new application, then we want to call the FATCA API and maybe some other APIs or other third-party services. We're going to then update the record to show that we did that, and then we will update the status of the last check, and then we conclude our KYC data exchange. But as we said, that's not always just a one-time process. So you can actually kick off this process on a timer so that every 3 months you are completing that same identity validation. And then even every time that someone calls in or maybe that you engage with somebody on a chat. So with this, I'm able to set up this one workflow about passing information, identity information to my third-party providers or calling other databases, and then have multiple start points or trigger points that would kick that off in order to make sure that I am within compliance for our own customer identity program without having to manually monitor any of this. That's a high level on how you can use Creatio to streamline the handoffs in between teams, and then how you can use that for not just the onboarding process, but for continual monitoring as well. So Mike, that is all I had for sharing. I'm going to pass it back to you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jenny. First of all, you're right on time, which is not always the case, when we when we do the sessions. Two, thanks, for sharing a peek of our no-code platform. Question, I know the answer, but I think it should be insightful, or or not. How long did that take you to build that demo, and did you do any coding around it?
I did not do any coding, which is good because actually I am not very good at coding. So it's a good thing that is not required. So let's see, we did a little bit of configuration in order to be able to show the handoffs to the different teams. And that took us just a couple of hours to configure those dashboards and all of the access right rules.
Oh, thanks. And I got a question as well from the chat, directly for you, or a couple questions. How essential are KYC programs in today's regulatory and business environment, in your opinion?
Well, certainly we know that for financial services, that KYC is very important. So we know that for all of to meet those regulations for those institutions, that you have to have those plans in place for not only onboarding, but for regular maintenance. So that's why we have some of those unique elements in our financial services package, like that validation element, in order to facilitate the KYC process.
Thanks. And with Creatio, with the platform that you show us, can we, sort incident, investigation, process registered, what type of overall management or tracking can we do of all these operations and processes?
Yeah, this is a really good question because we kind of showed in this little snippet about how we can facilitate getting information, but we didn't really talk about what if what if the results come back and they're not all positive. So you can certainly monitor those for the exceptions, those times when things come back that do need additional attention, and you can sort them for incident or for further investigation. There is a risk management module that you can use with Creatio, and then you can also custom build anything, so this can really fit your individual processes as you need them.
Great. Well, thank you, Jenny. You've answered all the questions. I also really appreciate you showing the platform because, we can talk about concepts and how important it is. I think showing the magic and how configurable the platform is and can help, like you say, having this pre-built, defined assets, but also everything being fully configurable to any organization specifics. So thanks again, Jenny.
Yeah.
And we'll meet again very soon, I'm sure.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good
Enjoy the
one.
rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.